this is the news. Ah, yes. This is the news. And the news is, it's a beautiful day. There's some clouds, but we've got some blue skies. The air is clear. And it's nice, you can hear a distant rumble of the dual carriageway off in the distance. The wind is blowing from that direction. And I realised when I looked back at the footage of the last news I did, what a terrible cunt I am now. Well, this isn't for children now, is it? What a terrible audio track it had on it. I had a little bit of feedback. I'm not really expecting a lot of viewers, to be perfectly honest, but the feedback that I did get from the people who saw it said they couldn't really hear it. Some of the other feedback was saying it took me a long time to get to the point, really, but I think the best news is news that kind of ekes out over like a long period, a drip, drip, drip. You know, this is the news, isn't it? I can't just give you the headlines and then be done with it. I've got to, you know, explore the situation. I've got to explain what's going on. So here we are, out and about. It's a very beautiful day. I do have Willow the dog with me. She is she's gorgeous. She's quite a gorgeous little dog. She's been yapping at me this morning because usually I'll take her out first thing, but this morning I just couldn't be bothered. Really struggled to get out of bed. It was just done too many walks and bike rides and things at the weekend, and I was just and also my alarm clock went off an hour too early. Should have laid in bed for an extra hour, but no, alas, I was not wise enough to change my phone time. My phone is not smart, it's pretty dumb, so which I'm happy with. I like to be smarter than the technology in my pocket. Yeah, so I mean that's quite difficult because, like, what have I got in my pocket? I've got keys. Well, they're certainly smarter in some respects than me, and I've got my phone, which I guess, even though it doesn't do all the newfangled whiz pop bang stuff that most of the slave devices that people use do, it still makes phone calls, which I can't do by myself yet. I'm working on my telepathic ability, but it's not quite panned out yet. So what do I want to talk about today? Well, I find something quite interesting about the news, and I think I'm going to probably intercut with, should I do that? Should I intercut with actual news? Should I cut away from me walking around this beautiful field to show you what the news does? Should I give the news airtime on my airtime? Should I run with their narrative? Nah, let's not do that. Let's just stick with me. Okay, here's me with the weather. Oh, weather today's lovely. There's sun in the sky. There's always in the sky, I suppose. It's kind of the definition of what a day is. But you can see it well, you shouldn't look at the sun, don't look at the sun, you go blind. Just in the news, Willow's just chased a pheasant, which is a worry because it's near a road. Willow, come here please. Willow, that'll do. Come on. Willow. Here she comes. Oh, she's so good. Let's have a look at Willow. She's more interesting than Willow. Look at her, what a gorgeous dog. She's got her little red bandana on. She doesn't really like it. It's more for my pleasure than hers. I've always fancied having a dog with a bandana and now I've got one. It's just the way I roll, man. It's like, I've realised that if you want something, you can get it. If you try hard enough. So in this instance I had to go onto eBay and type in dog banners. No, not banners. If I typed in dog banners I would have got something different. I typed in dog bandanas and found several companies that sold them and I bought one. And I mean, that's just an easy example of if you want something badly enough, all you have to do is go out and get it. So if you can do that with, say, dog bandanas, maybe it's possible to do that with pretty much anything you want. I suppose you've got to be realistic, haven't you? You've got to be realistic about what you want to do. Realistic about what you do. So is it realistic to think that you're broadcasting news when you're basically walking around a field pointing a GoPro at yourself and talking to a highly fictitious audience at this point? I tried to do a couple of these during the week. I've tried to do one during the night time and that proved extremely difficult, and the reason that it proved to be so difficult was because it was at night time and you couldn't see me, and then I ran out of battery. But I was on a roll. I was about 10 minutes into a bit of a chitter-chatter about our now, about what present is, what the now is. And that was pretty interesting for me. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to myself about what I'm doing to at this moment in time, a purely imaginary audiences. I don't know whether what's going to be said here now in my self-conscious consciousness, my now, my this point, if it's going to make it off my SD card onto my computer, into my editing software, and then get exported and uploaded to the devil's tube, to the devil incarnate that has become YouTube. Do you remember when YouTube used to be really good? I remember when it was great. YouTube used to be absolutely brilliant. There was like Google Video, yeah, which had long videos on it, yeah, so you could get like feature-length documentaries, and then YouTube was like, I think 15 minutes maximum. So you used to flip between them with Google Video and YouTube, and then YouTube got bought out by Google because YouTube was separate. It was a separate company. And then for years, like, Google owned YouTube, and I think they improved it. They certainly improved the platform, made it much more user friendly. Some might even say addictive. And then came the dreaded commercialization. and the adverts started to come, and people started to monetize their channels, and then people started saying, oh, please like and subscribe, because that is the power of an algorithm. That's what an algorithm can make people do. It can make people change their behavior and start saying things that ordinarily they wouldn't bother saying. They wouldn't bother saying, oh, please like and subscribe, like me, because the reason they're saying that is because they want as many clicks and as many views as possible, and they want people to share their content, because the more people that see their content, the more ad revenue they make and the more money YouTube give to them. And that's all okay, that's fine, I suppose. If you want to do that sort of thing, that's fine, and it gives you the option not to do that. If you don't want to monetize, then you don't have to monetize, and you don't have to say, oh, please like and subscribe, please like me, please like me, oh, I want to be liked, I want to be liked so very much. Hit that notification bell so that you know when I've uploaded something. You can do that if you want, that's fine. Or you cannot do that if you want, that's fine. Either way, that's fine. But isn't it funny now how all these people, and I doubt many people notice it, to be fair. I notice it because it's a lot of the channels that I watch it's happening to. But if they don't agree with what's being said, they being the YouTube, if they don't agree with what people are saying, then they have the power to, one, remove your video from the algorithm so people can't see it whilst doing a random search, which is odd, I find, because I still get lots of stuff flagged up on the suggested you might also be interested in this sidebar that I probably would have guessed that YouTube don't really want me to watch. They'd probably do without that content. So there's a lot of people who are just getting their content banned like that, shadow banned, by just disregarding their material from an algorithm search. And then there's other people who are getting videos removed because the content of their videos doesn't meet with policy. Now that's an interesting one, because what we're talking about now is censorship, isn't it? And censorship, well, it must have a place in society. It must have a place in society. It's not something. Oh, look, the gate's shut up there. That's interesting. Breaking news: the gate is shut at the top. Maybe it's because it's been windy. Okay, but censorship must have a place, because there are things that are unacceptable. So we can't just say morally anything goes. If it's fine to film it, it's fine to do it. That's not right, is it? So we have to reasonably say, if you're breaking the law, and by breaking the law I mean doing things that harms other people, if you're actively pursuing the harm of other people and filming it for gratification of others on the YouTube, that's got no place, has it? That's got no place on the YouTube. It's got no place really anywhere. So I'm thinking of really repugnant things like paedophilia and snuff films and stuff like that. Obviously We don't go onto YouTube to go and see that sort of shit. Okay, some people do. There are some fucking horrible toads in the world. We must never ever forget that there are horrible people in the world. There are really horrible, evil, nasty people who do horrible things, yeah? But that's not most people, is it? In fact, that's not even some people. It's just a minute fraction of cunts, okay? But we don't have to legislate for the cunt, okay? Because we all know who's the cunt in the room, don't we? Yes, we do. Oh, well, it's going to have to be a climbed over gate by the looks of things. Can you get under, Willow? Go under. Here. Go under here. Go here. You go under? Okay, I'll go over. Let's go under the gate. Come on, under. Good girl, look at that. What a fucking amazing dog she is. Look at her. She's so gorgeous. She wants to go for a bigger walk. Not having a kidder. Yeah, so where was I? So yeah, there is that, isn't there? There is stuff that needs to be censored, you know, because there are horrible people in the world, and well, we don't need their shit. But how far does that go? When do we stop with that? So I remember, like, there used to be a time back in the olden days, back in like when YouTube was good, right, where there was the authorities, yeah, and then there was the people, and the authorities imposed things and the people argued about it or rallied about it or supported it, and that was really down to the people. And the YouTube just used to be the conduit that would broadcast all those differing opinions. Do you remember that? Now the YouTube is something quite different. Now, even if you say certain things, you see people on YouTube all the time censoring the things that come out their mouths. They're always censoring things. They're always saying, "Oh, I can't say that word. I can't say about that special virus thing, and I can't say about immune systems and certain types of vitamins all in the same sentence, because that little algorithm that goes around algorizing, I guess that's what an algorithm does, it algorizes, it's going to pick up on all of those words, and the conglomeration of all those words will make it ban me. So I kind of think if you're going to get banned for talking on a video where you're not really saying anything that's actually harmful, you're just putting forward a different point of view, because there's always a different point of view. There's never a consensus view. There's never ever been a consensus view ever in the history of the planet. There's never been one. It just doesn't exist. It never will exist, because that's not the way the world works. It's a bit like back in the olden days, back in the 1990s. A very interesting, shiny, polished politician who apparently, to the unobservant, came from nowhere. And he stood up and he said there's no longer just two ways of doing things, there's a third way. And he came up with this brilliant concept of merging the right wing and the left wing, so taking all the parts of the things that made people happy about conservatism and Thatcherism, and say, but we can do it in a kinder way. Let's do lots of really good things like this. And he came up with this idea of this third way. But the trick really that he played by doing that, I think, is he invented the concept that really there were only two ways before, and he had invented a third. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. The truth is, there's lots of different ways, because everything works in degrees. There are polar opposites of things. There are polar opposites, but what you'll find, and I think this is a truth, this is a undeniable truth, that those apparent opposites are actually the same thing, separated by different degrees. Now, this isn't my thinking at all. This isn't something that I've arrived at all by myself. It is something I've arrived at by myself, but it's also something that other people, much smarter, much cleverer than I, have come up with and written down in books, and it's there for you to go and find it if you want. So let me give you an example, and this is not my example, this is an example I've taken from a book, but let's take temperature. Okay, so hot and cold are two very different experiences. At their extremes, they'll probably have a very similar effect on you, of extreme discomfort, and if in direct contact with anything that's extremely hot or extremely cold, you'll get burnt. But the difference of feeling cold and the difference of feeling hot are two very different experiences. Hot and cold are only degrees of temperature, and at what point does cold become hot and hot become cold? Now that's just temperature, that's just one thing, that's just temperature. But actually, within my experience of this beautiful and wonderful existence that we call Earth, and being a human being, in truth, and this is the news, everything works in very subtle shades, and those shades are often imperceptible between one another. So if you're talking about a left wing and a right wing of politics, the extremes of both often equate to exactly the same outcome, to exactly the same experience. This is the news.